Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. This is episode number 28. I'm your host, Rick Jenkins, and as always, we're coming to you from the Drum Creative Studios. In March of 2020, COVID hit. For quite some time, it changed how many of us lived our lives both at home and at work. Most every industry was impacted, some more than others, of course. The workplace and how our jobs were structured in some cases changed dramatically. And because all industries experienced change to some degree, there weren't many impacted more than the staffing industry, since they work with all the industries. When I refer to staffing, that includes companies that provide services such as talent acquisition, HR consulting, training and development, and employee retention strategies as well. Let's face it, employers used to have all the leverage in the boss-worker relationship, but then that changed somewhat during COVID, and employees suddenly had leverage themselves. But as we begin 2024, it seems that employers and employees are preparing themselves for, we'll call it a relationship reset. We're going to talk about that today and discuss current workplace trends in general with a representative from Malone Staffing Solutions. Plus, executives from HTI and Draxelmeyer are here to talk about their longtime partnership and how they work together to improve employee retention. Before we get into those conversations, we're going to hear about a few upcoming major regulatory laws that will impact employers in 2024. And here to help me with that conversation is Katie Busby. She's an attorney in the employment law practice at Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd, a law firm with 4 offices in South Carolina that provides business litigation and a host of other legal services. Katie has been with the firm for 2.5 years, and she is a graduate of the University of South Carolina. Katie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rick.
It is good to have you here. Are you from South Carolina, by the way?
I am. So I'm from Columbia originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Born and raised?
Yes.
Born and raised, okay. And you are a Gamecock?
I am a Gamecock.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I appreciate you joining us. And first of all, before we go any further, I just want to thank Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd for partnering with us on this show today to help us provide this content for our viewers. So we really appreciate it. I want to ask you about a few things before we get started. You are a part of the employment law team, correct? And how many people are on that team, Katie?
So we have 5 people, I think, right now on the team. So we have some people that focus on just general employment law, kind of bread and butter issues. Right. We have an immigration team as well that's also in our employment practice group. And so, yeah, we kind of cover the whole employment labor law world.
Right. Gotcha. As I mentioned, there are, in the intro, there are a few upcoming major regulatory laws that will impact employers this year. And so I just kind of want to run through those 3. I'm going to tee you up a little bit and you tell us about them. The Department of Labor established new thresholds for when employees become exempt from receiving overtime pay. Get us up to speed.
Yes, so the Department of Labor announced a new rule last year that we expect to go into effect sometime this spring. And basically, they are raising the salary thresholds at which point employees move from being non-exempt from receiving overtime pay to exempt. So under the Fair Labor Standards Act, if you meet certain salary threshold requirements and duty requirements, you don't have to be paid overtime under federal laws. And so they are actually increasing that salary level from about $684 a week to $1,059 a week. So it's quite a jump. I mean, it's over a 50% increase, and the Department of Labor thinks it's going to affect about 3.5 million workers.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Federal Trade Commission, they proposed a new rule on banning non-competes. I know that is going to impact quite a few folks. Tell me about that.
Yes, so the FTC announced this rule last year. It caught a lot of headlines. We had a lot of employers calling us right away, very worried about their non-compete agreements. And basically, under the proposed rule, it would ban all non-compete agreements. And then it would also ban any kind of provision that functions as a de facto non-compete. So if you have a confidentiality provision or a non-solicitation that is so broad that it would prohibit that employee from working when they separated from the employer, it would also ban those provisions as well. And it would actually even require employers to go back to all the people that they have non-competes with and let them know that those are no longer enforceable. Right. So I want to say that this is a proposed rule still, but the FTC has announced that they expect a final rule or a final decision this spring. So nothing in stone yet, and we do expect that it'll be challenged in court and that a court will have the final say.
For lack of a better way to put it, that can be a real pain, or it could likely be a real pain if that passes through.
It could, yes.
National Labor Relations Board, there are some new decisions that came down from them.
Yes, so they had a very busy year in 2023, and so I wanted to just hit on a couple decisions that came out that affect both employee handbooks and severance agreements. So just as a best practice, employers should be updating their employee handbook every year. But under this new NLRB decision, there are some specific tweaks that we're now making to those handbooks as far as confidentiality, social media, those types of employer policies. And basically the NLRB said, under the NLRA, employees have a right to discuss the terms and conditions of their employment. They can discuss their wages with fellow coworkers or other people. And so if you have these really broad provisions in your handbook that basically say, you are not allowed to discuss any of the terms of your employment or your wages, or you can never say anything bad about our company on your social media, those are so broad that the NLRB has said those violate the NLRA. And so we're really at a point where we need to take a look at those handbook policies for employers, need to kind of be tweaking that language to make sure that it complies. And then the other decision that came out has to do with severance agreements. And so kind of along the same lines, they basically said if you have a severance agreement that has these very broad confidentiality and non-disparagement provisions. So if you're restricting the employee from ever saying anything bad about the company, that's way too broad. You have to dial that language back some. And we can still put those protections in severance agreements. We can tweak that language. But, if employers are using a template agreement, it's time to update those as well.
Katie, I'm going to get you out of here on this. Hainsworth Sinkler Boyd, you all produce a blog that provides a lot of information for employees and HR teams. And let's see, it is scemployersblog.com. Makes sense. Tell us about it.
Yes, so we push out regular updates through our blog. So many of these rules that we've talked about today, when those final rules come out, we push out those updates to kind of keep people up to date. And then we also have free monthly webinars for anyone to access. We actually have one coming up. They're usually the last week of the month. And so we push out information on our blog about those as well.
I would assume if they go to your website, they can find information on how to subscribe to that blog.
Yes, they can.
Thank you. Katie, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome, folks. That is Katie Busby. She is with Hainsworth Sinkler Boyd. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take just a quick 60-second break, and we will be back with the rest of the episode. See you in a sec.